Tim lay on his hospital bed, surrounded by the sterile white walls of the room. Machines beeped rhythmically, monitoring the failing state of his frail body. The soft hum of the ventilator and the occasional murmur of nurses in the hallway were the only sounds that pierced the otherwise suffocating silence. Tubes snaked around his thin limbs, their cold touch a stark contrast to the warmth of his imagination, the only place where he had found solace throughout his life. His days had been spent battling a relentless illness that robbed him of the simple joys of childhood and adolescence. Tim's body, fragile and uncooperative, confined him to this bed, turning the outside world into a distant dream. While other boys played sports, went to school, and lived their lives, Tim's existence was measured in doses of medication and the sterile, antiseptic scent of the hospital. Yet, in the midst of this grim reality, Tim discovered a portal to boundless worlds and possibilities. Books, stacked high on his bedside table, piled under his bed, and even tucked under his pillow, books became his companions and his teachers. Through them, he journeyed to distant lands, fought in epic battles, and uncovered the secrets of ancient civilizations. He absorbed the intricacies of military strategies, the nuances of economic theories, and the delicate art of various crafts. Tim's mind was a vast library, meticulously organized with knowledge from countless volumes. He could recount the Battle of Thermopylae with the precision of a historian, explain the principles of supply and demand like a seasoned economist, and describe the process of glass blowing as if he had spent years in a workshop. In his imagination, he was a general commanding armies, a merchant navigating trade routes, and an artisan perfecting his craft. As his illness progressed, Tim's body weakened, but his mind remained sharp and vibrant. The nurses, who had grown fond of the quiet boy with the inquisitive mind, often marveled at his intellect. They listened as he recounted tales of ancient wars and described the processes of soap-making and glass-blowing. In their eyes, he was not just a patient, but a young sage, wise beyond his years. The day finally came when Tim's frail body could no longer keep up with his indomitable spirit. The doctors had done all they could, and his parents, their faces etched with grief, stood by his side, holding his hands. The machines that had been his lifeline now seemed to mock the inevitable. Tim, though, was not afraid. He had read enough to understand that death was not an end, but a transition. With each labored breath, Tim felt himself growing lighter. He closed his eyes, picturing the scenes from his favorite books. He saw the rolling plains of medieval battlefields, the bustling markets of ancient cities, and the quiet, serene workshops of master craftsmen. A sense of peace washed over him, a welcome reprieve from the constant pain and struggle. His last breath was a sigh of relief, a gentle whisper of farewell to the world that had been his prison. As the rhythmic beeping of the machines turned into a continuous drone, Tim's consciousness faded. His parents wept, and the nurses stood in silent reverence, knowing they had witnessed the passing of a remarkable soul. But for Tim, it was not the end. As his vision dimmed and the sensations of the hospital room faded away, he felt a strange, comforting warmth envelop him. The weight of his illness lifted, and for the first time, he felt free. The knowledge he had amassed in his short life swirled within him, a beacon guiding him towards something new and wondrous. In his final moments, Tim had no way of knowing that this was just the beginning of a new journey. A journey that would see him reborn in a world where his vast knowledge and indomitable spirit would lead him to greatness. As Tim slipped into the darkness, he carried with him the light of countless worlds, ready to shine once more in a new life. Tim woke up with a start, feeling an unfamiliar weight on his body. The sterile white walls and rhythmic beeping of the hospital were gone. Instead, he found himself in a small, dimly lit room, the air thick with the scent of old wood and burning candles. Confusion and wonder filled his mind. His body felt strange and uncomfortable. He looked around, his eyes adjusting to the low light, and saw that the room was decorated like something out of ancient times. Rough-hewn furniture, woven tapestries, and a small hearth where a fire crackled gently. Raising his hands, he stared in disbelief. They were small, delicate, and undeniably those of a child. Panic surged through him. Was this a dream? What was happening? He tried to sit up, but his body felt weak and unfamiliar. His mind raced, piecing together the last moments of his previous life. He remembered the hospital, the machines, his parents' faces, and the sensation of drifting away. But now, here he was, in a child's body, in a place that seemed centuries removed from the modern world he knew. As he grappled with these thoughts, he heard a woman's voice growing closer. The sound of her footsteps was light and purposeful. Tim, or Arthur as she called him, turned his head to the right. A woman, around 30 years old, with kind eyes and a warm smile, entered the room. Her clothing was simple but well-made, reminiscent of the attire worn in ancient times. "Come on, Arthur," she said gently, bending down to pick him up. "It's time to eat." She lifted him effortlessly, cradling him in her arms with a familiarity that suggested she had done this many times before. Tim looked up at her, his mind still swirling with questions. Arthur. She had called him Arthur. Was that his name now? Was this real? He glanced around the room again, taking in the details. This was no ordinary dream. Everything felt too vivid, too real. The warmth of the fire, the texture of the woman's rough wool dress, the softness of her touch. His small, new body felt real too. He could feel his heartbeat, his breathing, and even the faint hunger in his stomach. The woman carried him out of the small room and down a narrow hallway. The walls were made of thick, rough stone, and the floors were covered with simple, woven rugs. They passed several other doors, all closed, and Tim caught glimpses of more ancient-looking decor through the cracks. It was as if he had stepped into a different era, one he had only read about in books. She brought him into a larger room where a wooden table was set with simple but hearty food, fresh bread, steaming bowls of stew, and a jug of water. Other children, some older and some younger than his apparent new age, were already seated, eating and chatting quietly. They looked up and smiled as the woman entered, their expressions warm and welcoming. She set him down in a chair and placed a bowl of stew in front of him. "Eat up, Arthur. You need your strength." Tim hesitated, still trying to make sense of everything. But the smell of the stew was too enticing and his stomach growled in response. He picked up the wooden spoon and began to eat, the rich flavors exploding on his tongue. It was delicious, far better than the bland hospital food he was used to. As he ate, he listened to the chatter around him. The other children talked about their chores, their lessons, and the events of the day. He gathered that this was some kind of orphanage, and the woman who had carried him was likely a caretaker. With each bite, his confusion began to settle, replaced by a growing sense of curiosity and determination. He didn't know how or why he was here. But one thing was clear. This was a new beginning. A chance to live a life free from the constraints of his old sick body. A chance to use the knowledge he had accumulated in his past life. Arthur, as he now accepted himself to be, resolved to make the most of this second chance. He would learn, grow, and find a way to make a mark on this world. As Arthur finished his meal and stood to leave the table, he felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned around to see a dark-haired boy about his height with coal black eyes and a mischievous smile. "Hey Arthur, do you want to play?" the boy asked. Arthur hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Sure." The boy's smile widened. "Great, come on, let's go outside." Arthur followed him through the narrow hallway and out a wooden door that led to a small courtyard. The afternoon sun bathed the area in warm light, casting long shadows on the cobblestone ground. Other children were scattered around, some playing tag, others sitting in groups chatting or working on small tasks. The air was filled with the sounds of laughter and the chirping of birds. The dark-haired boy led Arthur to a corner of the courtyard where a group of children had gathered around a small circle drawn in the dirt. "My name's Marcus, by the way," he said as they approached the group. "We're playing marbles. Do you know how to play?" Arthur shook his head. "No, I don't think so." "It's easy," Marcus said, crouching down and picking up a few marbles from a pouch at his side. He explained the rules. Each player took turns flicking their marble to try to knock the others out of the circle. The one who knocked out the most marbles won. Arthur watched closely as Marcus demonstrated, taking note of the technique and the aim required. He felt a pang of nervousness. Games and physical activities were never his strong suit in his previous life. But this body felt stronger, more capable, and he was determined to make the most of it. Marcus handed Arthur a marble. "Give it a try." Arthur crouched down and positioned his marble at the edge of the circle. He aimed carefully, recalling the precision needed for various tasks he had read about. With a flick of his thumb, he sent the marble rolling. It bumped into another marble and sent it out of the circle. The other children cheered, and Arthur felt a surge of satisfaction. "Nice shot," Marcus exclaimed. "Looks like you're a natural." Arthur smiled, feeling a warmth he hadn't experienced in a long time. They continued playing, and Arthur quickly picked up on the strategies and techniques. As they played, he listened to the conversations around him, trying to learn more about this new world. He discovered that the orphanage was located in the capital city of the Kingdom of Aksum, one of the 5 nations on the continent of Aldora. The children talked about their lessons in history, geography, and basic crafts. Arthur absorbed the information like a sponge, piecing together a rough picture of the world he now inhabited. After a while, the game ended, and the children dispersed to different activities. Marcus and Arthur sat on a bench near the edge of the courtyard, watching the others. "You're really good at this," Marcus said, leaning back against the bench. "Where did you learn to aim like that?" Arthur shrugged, searching for a plausible answer. "I don't know. I guess it just came naturally." Marcus nodded, accepting the answer. "Well, it's good to have you here. Most of us have been here for a while, but new kids always bring something interesting." Arthur looked at Marcus, feeling a sense of gratitude. "Thanks, I'm glad to be here." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment before Marcus spoke again. "Have you ever thought about what you want to do when you're older? I mean, when will we leave the orphanage?" Arthur thought about the question. He had a lot of knowledge from his previous life, and now he had the opportunity to use it. "I want to invent many things and become rich," he said thoughtfully. "But at the same time, I want to learn as much as I can and maybe do something that will help a lot of people." Marcus grinned. "That's a good goal. My dream is to become a knight. I want to be able to protect people and go on adventures. Who knows, if you become rich, maybe I'll become your knight." Arthur smiled at Marcus's enthusiasm. "Sounds like a great dream. Who knows, maybe in the future you can protect me." As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the courtyard, Arthur felt a sense of belonging. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew he had a friend in Marcus and a new life full of possibilities. And for the first time in a long time, he felt hopeful. Arthur quickly adapted to his new life in the orphanage. The days blended into a routine of lessons, chores, and play, but he relished every moment of it. He made friends with other children, including Marcus and Aina. Aina was smaller in height than them, even though she was the same age. What set her apart was her sharp mind and quick wit. The 3 began to spend more and more time together, and they soon began to consider themselves family. 4 years passed since the day Arthur first woke up in this new world. In that time, he had learned many things. He picked up reading and writing much faster than the others, his sharp mind absorbing information like a sponge. His love for books from his past life translated seamlessly into this one, and he spent hours poring over any texts he could find in the orphanage's modest library. Marcus, ever the loyal friend, often sat with Arthur during these reading sessions. Even if he didn't always understand the complex texts Arthur preferred. His interests lay more in physical pursuits, training with wooden swords and dreaming of becoming a knight. Anna, on the other hand, shared Arthur's love for knowledge. Her sharp mind and quick wit made her a formidable partner in their intellectual pursuits. The 3 of them formed a close-knit trio, supporting each other through the challenges of orphanage life. Arthur's intellectual prowess did not go unnoticed. The caretakers marveled at his rapid progress and the depth of his understanding. They often gave him more advanced materials to study, and he eagerly devoured them, learning about history, mathematics, and science. His knowledge from his previous life gave him a unique perspective, and he began to show signs that he was a genius. One day, during a break in their studies, Marcus leaned back against a tree in the courtyard, watching Arthur and Anna pore over a particularly thick tome. "Do you ever think about the future?" he asked. Arthur looked up, considering the question. "All the time. There's so much I want to do, so much I want to learn and create." Aina nodded in agreement. "I want to make a difference. I want to help people and change things for the better." Marcus grinned. "And I want to protect people. Maybe one day, I'll be a knight, and I'll protect both of you." Artur smiled at his friends. They had all grown in the past 4 years, not just physically, but in their dreams and aspirations. They had become more than friends. They were a family. During this time, Artur learned about the patron of the orphanage, Duke Alfred, from the Black Wood House. The Duke was a powerful and influential noble, known for his keen eye for talent. Every 2 years, he visited the orphanage to select children with exceptional skills to serve the Blackwood House. The stories about Duke Alfred were legendary among the children, filled with awe and a hint of fear. He was a man of great power and authority, and being chosen by him was considered a great honor. As the time for the Duke's visit approached, the atmosphere in the orphanage became charged with excitement and anxiety. The children worked harder, hoping to catch the Duke's eye. Artur, Marcus, and Anna spent long hours honing their respective skills. Artur focused on his studies, knowing that his intellect was his greatest asset. Marcus trained diligently with his wooden sword, and Anna delved deeper into her studies, her sharp mind eager to prove its worth. The day of the Duke's visit finally arrived. The orphanage was a flurry of activity as the children lined up, their hearts pounding with anticipation. Duke Alfred, a tall man with a stern countenance and piercing blue eyes, walked down the line, accompanied by his advisors. Duke Alfred strode purposefully through the corridors of the orphanage, his presence commanding respect and curiosity among the children and staff alike. He reached Abbess Sophia's office, a modest room tucked away in a quiet corner of the building. Knocking briefly, he entered without waiting for a response. Abbess Sophia, a middle-aged woman with a gentle demeanor and a lifetime of caring for orphan children, looked up from her desk with a mixture of apprehension and deference. "Your Grace," she said respectfully, rising from her chair. "What an honor it is to have you visit us once again." Duke Alfred nodded curtly, his eyes scanning the room before settling on Abbess Sophia. "Abbess Sophia, I trust all is well here?" "Yes, Your Grace," she replied, gesturing for him to take a seat opposite her desk. "The children are thriving as best as they can under our care. We strive to provide them with a nurturing environment and the education they deserve." The Duke sat down, his expression unreadable. "I have come here with a purpose, Abbess. I have heard rumors of a particularly gifted child among your charges, a boy named Artur." Abbess Sophia hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "Artur is indeed a remarkable child, Your Grace. His intellect surpasses that of his peers. He has a hunger for knowledge unlike any I have seen before." The Duke leaned forward, his gaze piercing. "Tell me more about him. What sets him apart?" "Artur came to us 4 years ago. At age 6, Abbess Sophia began, her voice gentle yet earnest. He arrived with no family and a frail constitution, but his mind was sharp from the start. He learns quickly, reads voraciously, and shows a natural aptitude for complex subjects. His understanding of mathematics, history, and even rudimentary sciences far exceeds his age." Duke Alfred nodded thoughtfully, his fingers steepled in front of him. "And his character? His demeanor?" "He is a kind and thoughtful boy," Abbess Sophia continued. "Despite his intelligence, he is humble and shows great empathy towards his fellow orphans. He has formed close bonds with Marcus and Anna, who also show promise in their own ways." The Duke regarded Abbess Sophia silently for a moment, as if weighing her words. "You believe he is ready for more than what this orphanage can offer?" Abbess Sophia hesitated, her concern for Artur evident in her expression. "Your Grace, Artur has the potential to achieve great things. The opportunity to serve at the Blackwood House could provide him with the resources and guidance to fulfill that potential." The Duke nodded slowly, his decision seemingly made. "Very well, Abbess Sophia, I trust your judgment. Arrange for Artur, Marcus, and Anna to be prepared to leave with me. They will come to the Blackwood House and undergo further evaluation." Abbess Sophia bowed her head respectfully. "Thank you, Your Grace. This opportunity will mean a great deal to them." "As it should," Duke Alfred replied firmly. "Talent such as Artur's should not go unrecognized or wasted. I will see to it that he is given every opportunity to flourish." With that, the Duke rose from his seat, signaling the end of their conversation. Abbess Sophia remained standing, her mind already turning to the logistics of preparing the children for their departure. Duke Alfred left the office, his steps purposeful as he returned to where Arthur, Marcus, and Anna waited. When he reached Arthur, Marcus, and Anna, he paused, looking at them intently. "What are your names?" he asked, his voice firm but not unkind. "I'm Arthur," Arthur said, meeting the Duke's gaze. "Marcus," his friend replied, standing tall. "Anna," she said, her voice steady. The Duke nodded, his eyes lingering on Arthur for a moment longer. "I've heard about you, Arthur. They say you are exceptionally bright." Arthur nodded, trying to remain calm. "Yes, Your Grace, I love to learn and create." The Duke turned to Marcus. "And you, young man, what is your aspiration?" "I want to be a knight, Your Grace," Marcus said confidently. "I want to protect people." The Duke smiled slightly and then looked at Anna. "And you, young lady?" "I want to help people and make a difference," Anna said, her voice filled with determination. The Duke considered them for a moment, then turned to his advisors. After a brief discussion, he nodded. "Very well. Arthur, Marcus, Anna, you will come with me. The Blackwood House has a place for talent such as yours." The three friends exchanged excited glances. This was the opportunity they had been waiting for. As they followed the Duke out of the orphanage, Arthur felt a surge of hope and determination. This was just the beginning of their journey. Together, they would learn, grow, and perhaps one day, change the world. The carriage, extravagantly decorated with intricate carvings and plush upholstery, rolled smoothly along the winding road. 4 majestic horses, their coats gleaming in the sunlight, pulled the carriage forward with steady grace. Knights clad in silver armor rode alongside, their weapons glinting as they kept a vigilant watch over their charge. Inside the carriage, Duke Alfred sat in silence, his demeanor composed and unreadable. Arthur, Marcus, and Anna sat opposite him, their eyes wide with wonder as they took in the sights passing by. It was the first time any of them had left the orphanage, and the world outside was both exhilarating and overwhelming. The landscape unfolded before them like a painting, rolling hills dotted with vibrant wildflowers, winding rivers reflecting the clear blue sky, and forests alive with the songs of birds. Arthur couldn't help but marvel at the beauty of it all, the colors and textures so different from the pages of the books he had read. As the carriage continued its journey, a few hours passed, and in the distance, the towering walls of a grand city came into view. Argos, the city belonging to the Blackwood family, stretched out before them like a beacon of power and prosperity. The walls were sturdy and imposing, adorned with banners bearing the sigil of a black tree against a silver moon. Marcus leaned closer to Arthur, his voice filled with awe. "Look at that, Arthur. Have you ever seen anything like it?" Arthur shook his head slowly, his gaze fixed on the city ahead. "No, Marcus. It's beyond anything I could have imagined." Anna nodded in agreement, her eyes bright with curiosity. "I wonder what it's like inside the city. What kind of people live there?" Duke Alfred, who had been silent until now, spoke in a measured tone. "Argos is a bustling hub of trade, culture, and power. It is home to the Blackwood family, one of the most influential noble houses in Aldora. The city is known for its artisans, scholars, and warriors. You will find people of all walks of life within its walls." The carriage rumbled closer to the city gates, where guards in the livery of the Blackwood family stood watch. As they approached, the gates swung open, revealing a bustling thoroughfare lined with shops, taverns, and bustling markets. Arthur felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness as they entered the city, the noise and activity swirling around them. They passed through the streets, the Duke occasionally pointing out landmarks and notable buildings. Arthur tried to absorb everything: the architecture, the faces of the people, the smells of spices and freshly baked bread wafting from the market stalls. It was a sensory overload unlike anything he had experienced in the orphanage. The carriage came to a halt in front of the imposing Blackwood house, its grand entrance flanked by towering columns and intricate woodwork. The sight was awe-inspiring, and Arthur, Marcus, and Anna could hardly contain their excitement and nervousness. As Duke Alfred stepped out of the carriage, 20 maids, impeccably dressed in black and white uniforms, lined up on either side of the grand door. In perfect unison, they bowed deeply and said, "Welcome home, master." The Duke nodded in acknowledgement, his stern expression softening slightly. "Thank you," he replied, his voice carrying a tone of familiarity and authority. He turned to the children, gesturing for them to follow him. Arthur, Marcus, and Anna stepped out of the carriage, their eyes wide as they took in the scene before them. The maids remained perfectly still, their eyes respectfully lowered. The grandeur of the Blackwood house and the disciplined staff made it clear just how influential and powerful Duke Alfred and his family were. "Come," Duke Alfred said, leading the way into the manor. The massive doors swung open silently, revealing a lavish foyer adorned with marble floors, gilded chandeliers, and opulent tapestries. The air was filled with the faint scent of polished wood and fresh flowers. As they entered, a tall, dignified man with graying hair and a meticulously groomed beard approached. He wore a tailored suit and exuded an air of authority. "Welcome back, Your Grace," he said, bowing slightly. "I trust your journey was pleasant." "Thank you, Bartholomew," the Duke replied. "It was indeed. These are the new additions to our household, Arthur, Marcus, and Anna. They show great promise." Bartholomew turned his attention to the children, his keen eyes assessing them. "Welcome to the Blackwood house," he said warmly. "I am Bartholomew, the head butler. If you need anything, please do not hesitate to ask." Arthur, feeling a mix of awe and gratitude, nodded. "Thank you, sir." Bartholomew smiled kindly. "You must be tired from your journey. I will have rooms prepared for you and arrange for a meal to be served shortly." The children exchanged glances, their excitement tempered by a growing sense of the enormity of their new circumstances. As they followed Bartholomew deeper into the manor, Arthur marveled at the sheer scale and opulence of the place. Every detail, from the ornate ceilings to the plush carpets, spoke of wealth and power. Eventually, they were shown to their individual rooms, each one more lavish than anything they had ever imagined. Arthur's room was spacious, with a large bed covered in fine linens, a writing desk by the window, and shelves lined with books. He felt a thrill of excitement as he realized that this was his new home. After a brief rest and a chance to freshen up, they were summoned to the dining hall. The long table was set with an array of dishes, each one more delectable than the last. Arthur, Marcus, and Anna took their seats, feeling a mix of hunger and nervousness. Duke Alfred entered the dining hall and took his place at the head of the table. "I hope you find everything to your liking," he said, his tone more relaxed now that they were in the privacy of the manor. "Thank you, Your Grace," Anna said politely, her eyes shining with gratitude. As they began to eat, the Duke engaged them in conversation, asking about their lives at the orphanage and their interests. Arthur spoke about his love for learning and his dreams of creating and inventing. Marcus shared his aspirations of becoming a knight, while Anna expressed her desire to help people and make a difference. Duke Alfred listened intently, nodding thoughtfully. "You each have unique talents and ambitions," he said. "Here at the Blackwood house, you will have the opportunity to develop your skills and pursue your dreams. But remember, with opportunity comes responsibility. I expect you to work hard and uphold the values of our house." The dining hall was silent for a moment as Duke Alfred's words sank in. Arthur, Marcus, and Anna exchanged glances, a mixture of excitement and determination evident in their eyes. "Arthur," Duke Alfred continued, his gaze steady and authoritative, "from tomorrow morning you will be under Bartholomew's wing. He has a vast amount of knowledge about economics, science, and strategy. I expect you to absorb as much as you can and not disappoint me." Arthur nodded, his heart pounding with anticipation. "Yes, Your Grace, I will do my best." "Marcus," the Duke said, turning to the young boy whose dreams of knighthood were now closer to reality, "you will be under the command of Captain Lucas. He is the guard commander of our house, and he will train you in the arts of combat and leadership. I hope you will give your best and show the dedication needed to become a true knight." Marcus straightened in his seat, his eyes shining with resolve. "I will, Your Grace. Thank you for this opportunity." "And Anna," Duke Alfred said, his tone softening slightly as he addressed her, "you will be assigned to Lady Alexandra. She is the head of the intelligence department of our house, and I believe you have the potential to do great things under her guidance." Anna's face lit up with a mixture of pride and excitement. "Thank you, Your Grace. I won't let you down." The Duke nodded, satisfied with their responses. "Very well. You have a long day ahead of you tomorrow. Rest well tonight, and be ready to start your training at first light." With that, the Duke rose from his seat, signaling the end of the meal. Arthur, Marcus, and Anna followed suit, their minds buzzing with the prospects of their new assignments. As they made their way back to their rooms, they couldn't help but discuss what lay ahead. The next morning, Artur woke up early, excitement and nerves mixing in his chest. He dressed quickly, the anticipation of the day ahead propelling him forward. As he stepped into the foyer, he found Bartholomew waiting for him. The head butler greeted him with a nod and a warm smile. "Good morning, Artur," said Bartholomew. "I trust you are ready to begin your lessons." "Yes, sir," answered Artur in a quiet but determined voice. "Excellent. Follow me," Bartholomew instructed, leading Artur through the manor to a study filled with books, maps, and various tools. The room was a treasure trove of knowledge, and Artur's eyes widened with awe as he took in the sight. Bartholomew gestured to the desk where a selection of books lay open, alongside maps of Aldora and its neighboring continents, intricate instruments, and sheets of parchment covered in meticulous notes. "This," he said, "is where you will learn. I will share all my knowledge with you, and I hope that in the future you will become a pillar of this house. But knowledge alone is not enough. You must also learn to defend yourself, to become a swordsman. This will protect you in the future." Artur nodded, absorbing every word. "I understand, sir. I am ready to learn." Bartholomew smiled approvingly. "Good. We will start with the basics of economics and strategy. Understanding the flow of resources and the art of war are crucial to any leader." Bartholomew explained the principles of trade, the importance of supply and demand, and the intricacies of managing an estate. He showed Artur how to read maps, plan logistics, and understand the strategies employed in famous battles. Artur listened intently, his mind sharp and eager. He asked questions, took notes, and absorbed the lessons with a voracious appetite for knowledge. Artur's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. He meticulously absorbed every detail, but his thoughts were also racing with ideas, memories, and knowledge from his previous life. Slowly, as if assembling a complex puzzle, he began to formulate a plan for the future. In his past life, confined to a hospital bed, Artur had devoured countless books on military tactics, economics, and various crafts. Now, in this new world, he saw opportunities to apply that knowledge in ways that could change everything. Bartholomew was explaining the importance of maintaining strong trade relations when Artur's mind began to wander. He thought about the resources available in Aldora, the neighboring continents of Calradia and Glazia, and the potential for trade with the ancient tribes. He envisioned establishing a network of trade routes that would bring unprecedented wealth to the Blackwood House. "Bartholomew," Artur interrupted, his voice steady but full of new determination. "Can you tell me about our country too?" "Of course," answered Bartholomew. "On our continent, there are 2 empires, 3 smaller countries, and the wild lands populated by the ancient tribes. Their names are the Alinor Empire, where we reside. To our west are the Wild Lands, and to our southwest is the Endless Sea. To our southeast is the Danubian Empire. To the east lies the Ostian Kingdom, to our northeast is the Karos Kingdom, and to the north is the Mathura Kingdom. The Wild Lands, which mostly consist of mountains, have 6 tribes, of which the Vlachia tribe is the largest. They neighbor us, and we don't have very good relations with them." Artur listened intently, absorbing every detail. His mind, owned by years of reading and strategizing in his previous life, immediately began to map out the geopolitical landscape of Aldora. "So, the Alinor Empire," Artur began, "what is its strength compared to the other nations?" Bartholomew nodded, appreciating Artur's keen interest. "The Alinor Empire is one of the 2 most powerful entities on this continent. We have a well-structured military, a robust economy, and fertile lands. However, we are constantly on guard against threats from both the Danubian Empire to our southeast and the Vlachia tribe from the Wild Lands to our west. The Ostian and Karos kingdoms are smaller, but are significant players in their own right, while the Mathura kingdom to our north is known for its naval prowess." Artur pondered this information, his mind racing with the possibilities. "And what about the internal structure of Alinor? How is power distributed?" "The Alinor Empire is ruled by Emperor Theodoric," Bartholomew explained. "Beneath him are several noble houses, each controlling different regions and contributing to the empire's governance and defense. Our house, Blackwood, is one of the most influential due to our strategic position and economic strength." The emperor relies on the support of the noble houses to maintain stability and power. Arthur's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. He meticulously absorbed every detail, but his thoughts were also racing with ideas, memories, and knowledge from his previous life. Slowly, as if assembling a complex puzzle, he began to formulate a plan for the future. In his past life, confined to a hospital bed, Arthur had devoured countless books on military tactics, economics, and various crafts. Now, in this new world, he saw opportunities to apply that knowledge in ways that could change everything. Bartholomew was explaining the importance of maintaining strong trade relations when Arthur's mind began to wander. He thought about the resources available in Aldora, the neighboring continents of Calradia and Glazia, and the potential for trade with the ancient tribes. He envisioned establishing a network of trade routes that would bring unprecedented wealth to the Blackwood House. Bartholomew, Arthur interrupted, his voice steady but full of new determination. "Can you tell me about our country too?" "Of course," answered Bartholomew. "On our continent, there are 2 empires, 3 smaller countries, and the wild lands populated by the ancient tribes. Their names are the Alinor Empire, where we reside. To our west are the wild lands, and to our southwest is the endless sea. To our southeast is the Danubian Empire. To the east lies the Ostian Kingdom. To our northeast is the Karos Kingdom, and to the north is the Mathura Kingdom. The wild lands, which mostly consist of mountains, have 6 tribes, of which the Vlachia tribe is the largest. They neighbor us, and we don't have very good relations with them." Arthur listened intently, absorbing every detail. His mind, owned by years of reading and strategizing in his previous life, immediately began to map out the geopolitical landscape of Aldora. "So, the Alinor Empire," Arthur began, "what is its strength compared to the other nations?" Bartholomew nodded, appreciating Arthur's keen interest. "The Alinor Empire is one of the 2 most powerful entities on this continent. We have a well-structured military, a robust economy, and fertile lands. However, we are constantly on guard against threats from both the Danubian Empire to our southeast and the Vlachia tribe from the wild lands to our west. The Ostian and Karos kingdoms are smaller, but are significant players in their own right, while the Mathura kingdom to our north is known for its naval prowess." Arthur pondered this information, his mind racing with the possibilities. "And what about the internal structure of Alinor? How is power distributed?" "The Alinor Empire is ruled by Emperor Theodoric," Bartholomew explained. "Beneath him are several noble houses, each controlling different regions and contributing to the empire's governance and defense. Our house, Blackwood, is one of the most influential due to our strategic position and economic strength. The emperor relies on the support of the noble houses to maintain stability and power." Arthur nodded, filing away this crucial information. "And the wild lands and the Vlachia tribe? Why are our relations strained with them?" "The wild lands are rich in resources, but difficult to control due to the rugged terrain and the independent nature of the tribes," Bartholomew said. "The Vlachia tribe in particular is known for its fierce warriors and resistance to outside influence. We've had several skirmishes with them over territory and resources, leading to a long-standing distrust and enmity." Arthur could see the potential for both conflict and opportunity in these strained relations. "Do you think it would be possible to establish a more diplomatic approach with the Vlachia tribe? Perhaps trade or alliances?" Bartholomew raised an eyebrow, clearly impressed by Arthur's strategic thinking. "It's a difficult proposition, Arthur. The Vlachians value their independence and have a deep-seated mistrust of us. However, with the right approach and incentives, it's not entirely out of the question." Arthur nodded, deep in thought. He saw an opportunity to leverage his knowledge and strategic thinking to build bridges where others saw only barriers. "Thank you, Bartholomew. This information is invaluable." Bartholomew smiled. "You have a sharp mind, Arthur. I believe you will do great things for our house and our empire. Now, let's continue with today's lesson." The rest of the day was spent delving deeper into the specifics of the Alinor Empire's economy, military, and political structure. Arthur absorbed the lessons like a sponge, his mind constantly weaving together the knowledge from his past life with the realities of his new one. As evening fell and the lessons concluded, Arthur couldn't help but feel a sense of exhilaration. He was beginning to understand the complex web of power and influence that defined Eldora, and he was already formulating plans to navigate and shape it to his advantage. The next day, Arthur found himself once again out on the training grounds. The crisp morning air was filled with the sounds of clashing steel and the shouts of soldiers in training. Captain Lucas awaited him, his stern gaze fixed on Arthur, ready to push him to his limits. As Arthur practiced his footwork and swordplay, he found himself contemplating the importance of physical strength and combat skills. In this world, power was not just about wealth and influence, it was also about the ability to protect oneself and one's interests. He realized that mastering the art of combat was as crucial to his plan as his knowledge of economics and strategy. "Focus, Arthur," Captain Lucas barked, snapping Arthur out of his thoughts. "Your mind must be as sharp as your blade." Arthur nodded, redoubling his efforts. He needed to master every skill, every lesson, to see his plan come to fruition. As he practiced his strikes and parries, he felt a deep sense of purpose. This was his second chance at life, and he was determined to make the most of it. Captain Lucas circled him, observing his form and technique. "Remember, Arthur, control and precision are key. A wild swing will only leave you open to attack. Every move must be deliberate and calculated." Arthur absorbed the advice, focusing on his movements, ensuring each strike was precise and controlled. He felt the strain in his muscles, the sweat dripping down his face, but he pushed through the fatigue, driven by his determination to succeed. After hours of relentless training, Captain Lucas finally called for a break. Arthur collapsed onto the ground, breathing heavily but feeling a sense of accomplishment. Captain Lucas knelt beside him, a rare smile crossing his face. "You're making progress, Arthur," he said. "You've got the potential to become a skilled swordsman. But remember, it takes time and patience. Don't rush it." "I understand, Captain," Arthur replied, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. "Thank you for your guidance." Captain Lucas nodded, standing up. "Get some rest. We'll continue tomorrow." As the sun set and Arthur returned to his room, he felt a renewed sense of determination. His plan was ambitious, but he was ready to take on the challenges ahead. With the knowledge from his previous life and the guidance of his new mentors, he was confident that he could achieve greatness. As Arthur walked through the halls of the Blackwood Manor, his mind still buzzing with the day's training and lessons, a voice like an angel's singing reached his ears. The sublime melody echoed throughout the palace, wrapping around him like a warm embrace. Drawn by the enchanting sound, Arthur followed the voice. His footsteps light and quick, the song guided him through the halls and out into the family's private garden. As he stepped into the lush greenery, he saw the source of the beautiful singing, a girl about his age, with golden hair that shone like the sun and eyes as blue as the sky. Beside her sat an older lady with similar features, listening intently. Arthur stood frozen in place, captivated by the girl's beauty and the ethereal quality of her voice. She noticed him out of the corner of her eye and stopped singing. Rising gracefully from the bench, she walked toward him, her movements as fluid and elegant as her song. "Hello," she said, her voice soft and melodious even when speaking. "I don't believe we've met." Arthur swallowed, suddenly feeling nervous and unsure of himself. "Hello," he stammered. "I'm Arthur. Your singing was so beautiful, I couldn't help but follow it." The girl smiled, her eyes twinkling with warmth. "Thank you, Arthur. I'm Elena, and this is my mother, Duchess Elizabeth." Duchess Elizabeth stood and approached them, her regal presence commanding respect. "Welcome, Arthur. I've heard good things about you from Bartholomew. It seems you're quite the promising young man." Arthur bowed slightly, feeling a rush of pride at her words. "Thank you, Duchess Elizabeth. I'm honored to be here and to have the opportunity to learn and grow." Elena tilted her head, curiosity in her eyes. "What brings you to our garden, Arthur?" "I was heading to my room after training," Arthur explained. "But your singing, it was so captivating that I had to find out who was behind it." Elena blushed slightly, her smile growing. "I'm glad you enjoyed it. Singing is one of my passions. It brings me joy, and I'm happy it could bring some to you as well." Arthur nodded, still feeling a bit overwhelmed by her presence. "It did. Thank you for sharing your gift." Duchess Elizabeth looked between them, a thoughtful expression on her face. "Elena, why don't you show Arthur around the garden? It's a lovely evening for a walk, and I'm sure you two could benefit from getting to know each other." Elena agreed readily, gesturing for Artur to join her. As they walked through the garden, surrounded by blooming flowers and the soft glow of the setting sun, they talked about their interests and dreams. Artur found himself opening up to Elena in a way he hadn't with anyone else. Her kindness and genuine interest made him feel at ease. "I've always loved this garden," Elena said as they stopped by a small pond. "It's a place of peace and reflection for me. Whenever I feel overwhelmed or uncertain, I come here to find clarity." Artur smiled, feeling a connection to her words. "I can see why. It's beautiful here, and your singing adds a touch of magic to it." Elena laughed softly. "Thank you, Artur. I'm glad you think so. And what about you? What are your dreams?" Artur hesitated for a moment, then decided to share a piece of his grand plan. "I want to use my knowledge and skills to bring prosperity to our house and make a positive impact on the empire. I believe that with the right strategies and alliances, we can achieve great things." Elena looked at him with admiration. "That's a noble goal, Artur. I believe you have the determination and intelligence to make it happen." They continued their walk, discussing their aspirations and the challenges they faced. By the time they returned to where Duchess Elizabeth was waiting, Artur felt a newfound sense of companionship. He had found a friend in Elena, someone who understood and supported his ambitions. As they said their goodbyes for the evening, Artur felt a warm glow in his chest. He knew that this encounter had been a turning point. With Elena and his new family by his side, he felt more confident than ever in his ability to shape his destiny and achieve greatness. Artur lay in bed that night, his mind not only filled with plans and strategies, but also with the memory of Elena's smile and the sound of her angelic voice. His journey had taken an unexpected yet delightful turn, and he was eager to see where it would lead next. As the sun's rays made their appearance through the curtain, Artur lay in bed, savoring the rare chance to be lazy. Today was his day off, a welcome break from his relentless schedule. Now 14 years old, he had spent the last 4 years transforming his life and the fortunes of the Blackwood family. Artur's mind wandered back to his early days at the manor. The first 2 years had been a whirlwind of learning, as he absorbed everything Bartholomew taught him about the continent. Maps, trade routes, political structures, and economic theories filled his days, his mind a sponge for knowledge. If you like this story, please press the like button and subscribe. It encourages me to write more stories. Thank you.